Hi guys, this is your 20-minute yoga for sleep practice. So you're going to start seated, one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Just taking a few deep breaths here. Breathing into the space of your hands, softening through shoulders. Allowing the low back to lengthen. And bringing yourself into this space right here. You're going to move yourself into a hands and knees position. So you can take a few cat-cow stretches. So planting those hands, spreading the fingers. You'll inhale, drop the belly. On the exhale, round through the spine. Inhaling, arching, and exhaling, rounding. Continue to push off the floor with the hands, finding that length in the spine. If you want to, you can start to play just a little bit with that forward and back motion of how far you can shift forward or back as you arch and round. And then we'll start to take a little circle with the spine. So it's just going laterally up and over and around to come back down. You can let the head follow whatever feels good. If the head doesn't make sense, don't worry about the head. Just follow that spine circling around. And then you'll go the opposite direction. Just a few times. Before making our way back into that hands and knees position. So we're going to thread the needle here, reaching the arm out to the side and then reaching it down. You'll inhale it back up and exhale it down, taking the other side. Inhaling out, exhaling down, inhaling up and exhaling down. And again, inhale, exhale, inhale. Notice the feet are still pressed in the ground as you go side to side here, and the hips are still above the knees. So you're not shifting too far forward. You're definitely not sitting back over those ankles. I'm going to keep right on top so that the twist happens completely in the spine. And still working with the breath. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. And this time here, we're going to stay for just a moment. You can reach that top arm up, turn it thumb side down, and bring it behind the back if that sounds good to you. And just have a few breaths here, softening into the shoulders, into the head. Let as much of the body fall. Keep the feet firmly planting down into the ground. And then we'll inhale that arm up to press down. And coming into that opposite side for a few breaths. Dropping down. Reaching that top arm up. Thumb side turns down, drops behind the back. And having a few breaths here yet again to soften into the head, neck and shoulders. Breathing in, breathing out, softening down, dropping in. And then we'll inhale that top arm back up, press it down to the ground to come back into table. And we're going to make our way from a table position into a down dog. So walking those hands forward, feet as wide as your mat. And then we're going to adjust the shoulders a little more open. So opening those hands before pressing back, softening through those knees. And then we'll readjust the hands to parallel. Take one foot, bring the toes to the back of the heel, giving it a little stretch before you move to the opposite side, giving that little heel a press into the ground before coming back to center. We're going to move to the outside of one foot, inside of the other. Lovely stretch on the outside of the armpit. On the other side as well. Shifting through those hips before coming back to a center. Setting up your down dog to be able to find a few breaths with a bit more stillness. I like the knees round. I like the spine a little curved toward the end. And just breathing here. Softening through the face, shoulders drawing down the back. As you finish the exhale, we'll start to walk those feet to a wide-legged position. So feet are wider than hips, as wide as you feel comfortable with heels dropping into the ground. Toes in, heels out, pressing into the outside edges of the feet, and then dropping through the torso toward the floor. Let whatever catch that's comfortable to you. If you like, you can interlace those hands behind the back and drop them up and over toward the head. Have a few breaths here, softening into head, neck, and shoulders, pressing down through the outside edges of the feet. If this isn't comfortable, you can always do this with more of a bent knee. It does not have to be straight. And having one more breath before you release the arms all the way back down. We'll crawl over to one side. Whichever bits of limb touch the floor is fine, before we bend that opposite knee and straighten it. Notice hips are still squared in the center here, so you haven't shifted your hips over just because you've shifted your torso. And then we're going to take a little twist, opening through that torso just a bit. Again, if it's not comfortable for you to be this close to the floor with your arm, you can always press the hand down, straighten through that bottom arm. You can bring your hand onto a block. Make this comfortable for you. It should feel nice. And then we'll crawl over to the other side. And start bending and straightening through that opposite leg. Use the breath to motivate the movement here. Let the inhales and the exhales drive the bending and the straightening. And before we take a little twist. Again, whichever part of your arm touching the ground is as comfortable for you. Having the breath continue to move through the body. Lengthening across the chest through that top arm before you bring it all the way back down to center. And then we'll adjust here in center. Have the knees nice and soft. Whatever you like touching the floor. I have my elbows down here, but you're more than welcome to have hands down, hands on a block. Bringing the hands to a different position. You can grab the outsides of the feet or the ankles. You can walk the hands through, whatever feels good to you. And making your way into a little seated position. I recommend getting some padding underneath you. So I have a rolled blanket here. You're welcome to use a rolled blanket. If that doesn't work for you and you'd rather get your hips a little bit higher, sometimes a block is nice, or the blanket on top of a block works really nicely as well. But you're looking and aiming to get the hips a little higher than your knees. So once you find that seated position, lengthening the torso out and then just round over. Drop the chin toward the chest. Let the elbows be soft. Let the shoulders be soft. And just breathing here. This does not have to be one of those intense haul you forward poses. Let things soften and drop down. Let gravity be the reason that you fold. And then bend those knees in and drop the torso even more deeply. Less impact on the back of the legs, but it really starts to slow that blood pressure down just a little bit, prepare you to relax. And from here, We'll move into soles of the feet coming together, knees apart. Depending on what feels good to you and the openness of your hips, you can bring those feet closer towards you or a little farther away. We're going to stretch the neck here by dropping an ear towards your shoulder. You don't have to use the hand on the head to create extra pressure, only if that sounds good to you. But making sure that you drop through that opposite shoulder just as much as you're dropping through the shoulder that's lengthened, so that you're not creating more tension on one side as you stretch out the other. And then bring it over on the diagonal. Again, hand is optional here, just breathing, finding a nice stretch through the neck. And then we'll release and move on to the other side, bringing that ear toward the shoulder. Keep the length in the spine here. Keep the shoulders as soft as you can. And then we'll bring this down onto the diagonal. And breathing into that space. Any place you feel tension, breathing straight into it and exhaling straight from it. Take the chin dropping down toward the chest. You can add a little extra by bringing the hands behind the head. If you want even more than that, you can draw the elbows down. It can get fairly deep, going all the way down between the shoulder blades, so do what feels good here and work with the range of motion you feel most comfortable with. Breathing into the back of the neck and the shoulders. And then we'll release. I'm going to take the bottom jaw in front of the top teeth. Then you're going to lift your chin toward the sky, and you want to keep lengthening through the front side of your throat, lifting that bulldog face up toward the ceiling. Creates a lovely stretch in the front of the throat. Difficult to breathe. Do the best that you can here. And then bring it back to center. Adjust the legs if you need. Drawing back the fleshy bits away from the sits bones. We'll bring our hands to the soles of our feet and just start to give those soles of the feet a little bit of a rub. If you're anything like me, you're constantly running around with cold hands, cold feet. So this is a nice little thing you can do for yourself. Giving yourself that little foot rub. Don't forget the toes. Working across the whole sole of the foot before you move to the other. Just enough to give it a little bit of love before you come back to center. And then we'll fold forward. Again, feet can be close to you, feet can be far away. It's whatever feels good to you. I like a little interlace of my hands around my feet. And soften into the places that don't need to work. Let the hips go here, so that the knees can just fall apart and away from one another. I'm going to walk off on the diagonal. And this just increases the stretch on one side of the low back a bit more. Keep breathing here. Keep finding the places where you can soften. And we'll walk off to that other side, other diagonal, dropping down. Doesn't have to go far to do a lot. Trust that. Keep the breath still moving in the body before we come back to center and up. So we're going to move onto our stomach for a little quad opening and a little shoulder opening here. And again, if you are pregnant, you can do this standing and modify for yourself. But you're going to start by grabbing one foot and just drawing the foot toward the bum. So really the leg is completely passive here. Your arm is doing all the work as you're breathing and just finding a stretch in the front of that thigh. And then you're going to change the grip to the inside, pull the foot, and now the foot and the leg is working quite actively, and you're trying to make the arm more passive. This is going to give you a nice little stretch in the chest and the shoulder. If you bring your chin off on the opposite diagonal, it adds more to the stretch. And we move to the other side. Foot and leg passive here, arm doing the work because the stretch is happening in the thigh. And then we'll switch the grip to the inside of that foot, and the foot is going to pull the hand, which is going to lift you. And then you can again drop that chin on the opposite diagonal, getting that stretch across the chest into the shoulder. Keep breathing here. Relax the things that don't need to work. So we're going to make our way onto our back for a reclined cow face posture. Unrolling your spine all the way down, drop your head, neck, and shoulders as you draw knees into the chest. Cross at the knees, grab onto the low legs, and the ankles are going to come up toward the shoulders and then drop the feet down toward the floor. And if you're more flexible than me, which is not hard, then you'll probably have a bit more distance between your feet and be able to possibly grab to the outsides of those feet. And then we'll swap sides. Again, grabbing onto whatever part of the leg is comfortable for you. And making sure you are crossing at the knees. If you try to cross lower, it's going to become more of a figure four stretch. And while that's fine, it's not quite what we're going for here. And then again, drawing those knees into the chest. We'll release one leg away to come into a wind relieving pose. Hugging that knee nice and into the chest. Relax the foot. Relax the bottom leg onto the ground. This is too much for the low back. You can always bend that lower leg and put the foot on the floor. And then all we're going to do is extend the shin so it's perpendicular to the ground. You can grab the foot if that's comfortable, or you can grab a strap. Any kind of strap will do to loop over that foot. And drawing that knee to the outside of the rib cage. And we're going to bring it into a twist. So palm faces the ground, pinky side up on the outside of that ankle. You're going to scoot yourself over, and then you're going to start to straighten through that leg as you're grabbing on it. And what it's going to do is give you a lovely forearm stretch here. It's going to get right into the tightness. So if you are somebody who spends a lot of time typing, you're on your phone, you're gripping a steering wheel, you're gripping a pram, this will be very relieving to all the stress and tension that goes into your forearms. And then we'll come through center, hugging the knees back into the chest to do the second side. So yet again, bringing that knee into the chest, giving it a nice hug, and relaxing everything else into the ground. Let go of the neck. It does not need to work here. Softening through the breath. And we'll extend that shin to perpendicular. Yet again, grabbing the foot. Once you find this comfortable position, you can move that knee to the outside of the torso. Before we take it over into that twist. So you can see that the palm faces the ground, pinky side wraps around, bottom foot comes onto the ground, and you rotate yourself over into that twist and then start to straighten that leg. And that'll get right into your forearm. Breathe here. Find the exhale. And then we'll come back to center. Oh, knock the block over. We're going to make our way into Shavasana here. You're going to need a rolled blanket. And with your rolled blanket, you want it rolled so that you can support your head, neck, shoulders. You're not sitting on it. So let's be clear about that. If you're short like me, it possibly kisses your sacrum and you can recline onto it, but it doesn't need to touch your back as you roll onto it. You tuck the end under so that this is key. You can get the forehead higher than the chin. That will allow the breath to flow naturally so that all you need to do is inhale and exhale, softening through feet, low legs, and upper legs. Breathing in and out, softening through hips and pelvis and bum, through low spine, mid spine, upper spine, softening through the belly, through the ribs and sternum and chest, softening through the arms from top all the way down to fingers, softening through neck, softening through the face, and letting go of the scalp. Breathing in and breathing out. And then slowly walking your soles of your feet onto the ground to roll off to your side, to make your way into bed and have a beautiful night of sleep. Thanks, guys.